I came to Canada in 1976. I was about 13 years of age. I was going to school in India, then came to Canada, was able to start my schooling, high schooling, when I arrived. Uh, I was sponsored to come to Canada by my father. My father came to Canada in 72. So when he came and he got settled here, he sponsored me, my mom, and my brothers and sisters. So we all came to join him under the family reunification program. And my dad was invited to come to Canada by his sister, my my aunt, who was married into one of the pioneer families, a family who came to Canada in 1906, I believe. So there's an interesting historical connection to our migration. So I feel very grateful to my father, my aunt, and all other pioneers who came and helped to make this home for us. From what I've heard, my family has a quite an interesting story. You know, I would hear it from my dad, from my grandparents. Uh, they migrated from a village to a city Jalandhar. Can't remember exactly when that was the case when they migrated, but they migrated to city to escape the problems of caste system that they were seeing in India, in their village. So they wanted to escape, and one way of escaping caste-based discrimination was to go to cities where you're not dependent on everything to the land owning class. You know, you're so that was one of the significant factors. And then it was interesting. I started reading about Dr. Ambedkar, and he also promoted that to eradicate caste system, urbanization is a way. You know, and India does not live in rural areas, because if that's what you want, you're going to continue to see elements of feudalism, whether you call it feudalism or not. So I'm not quite sure, because I they were influenced by Dr. Ambedkar, because this would have probably happened prior to Dr. Ambedkar's time, or at least in his earlier years. But there must have been some kind of a connection. And but the thinking is that my point is that their actions were aligned with the approach that Dr. Ambedkar took. So I feel even greater allegiance to Dr. Ambedkar and have greater confidence in what he was saying. You know, I also want to say that migrating to city was not an easy, part for them. What happened was that I heard they our ancestors, as far as I know, they were rooted in a village called Balla, and Balla is also the place where Dera Sachkhand Balla is now. You know, one of the saints who have done a lot for the community. And then at that time, the system was I forgot what it's called in Punjabi, but basically it was bonded labor. You know, you were from the dawn to dusk, you were basically a slave, right? You couldn't go anywhere. You had to be available to work, whether work was there or not. And then all you were given was basically a basic meal, right? You didn't have any right to owning land, not even land to build your home on. So you're always feeling that your life is entirely independent. And then they got into an argument, because they wanted to have more rights. And then the resources weren't there. And then they had heard that just a few kilometers away from Balla there was another village which was dominated by Muslims, you know, and that village was called Jinda by that name. So these are all localities, you know, near Jalandhar. So what I've heard was that uh, the the uh, the landowning class of Muslims at that time, they said, yeah, no, come on over, we don't believe in caste system, we'll give you more rights, etc. I don't think my elders were able to own the land, you know, but they felt there was at least a bit of an acceptance. The issue of untouchability was lesser, uh, and so they settled there. They worked. Everything was pretty normal for the first few years, and then after that, the cultural elements clock in, right? And then the Muslims also started practicing caste system, started discriminating. That's when our elders made a decision to 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 move into a city, because urbanization was also growing in the British system, railways, and then they moved to be about a couple of kilometers from the railway station in Jalandhar. So when I think back the journey of our elders, you know, and it seems like they've always had some kind of a struggle. You know, they always felt that they had right to live in dignity, and it was that drive to live in dignity which helped them to keep the caravan of transformation moving forward in whatever way they could. When I was born in city, I went to Khalsa school, Sikh school, which was still in an inner part of the city. But the practice of untouchability wasn't there or was not as visible uh, in my view. The acceptance was fairly high uh, among students, teachers. I don't recall any instance uh, that I would have faced. I mean, I came to Canada at the age of 13, so I probably was not in tune with what was going on, but I certainly don't recall. Teachers were really appreciative, encouraging. Uh, uh, so because it was a Khalsa school, you know, and I was influenced by it. It was in a city, so I was also influenced by Hinduism. By that, what I mean, the practice of knowing the Hindu temples and etc. So I grew up in a sort of like a multi-faith community. I wasn't really affiliated to any group per se, and then I also was pretty aware of the Ravdasya community, because there was a strong hold. There was a Ravdasya temple in our part of the city, you know, and in Jalandhar, there's a strong Dalit presence. They're economically, politically active. Every year, at least, they have a community processions. So I was aware of all the bright sides of the Ravdasya community, if not the entire Dalit community. So those were by having the positive elements, you know, of the environment, it helped me to build a stronger foundation and not be as mindful of any caste-based discrimination. And then when I came to Canada, my dad was working, in the in that in a sort of like a center part of the province we live in, British Columbia. Uh, it's called Northern BC, but geographically, BC, Canada is pretty huge. So geographic, yes, that's pretty central. He was working in a sawmill there. The total population of the village was only about 3,500 people, and I would say when went to Fort St. James, there were probably about 100 or so families of the Punjabi background. Uh, Not sure, there were probably about 4 or 5 families of the Rasya community. You know, uh, not a strong group, but that's about 5 to 7% of the Indian population, which is probably a good representation. Uh, I think again everyone was there wasn't a place of any worship there. The community was more pro-union, uh, 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 rights for workers. There were issues around racism, um, and so the workers particularly, they were involved in organizing and creating better environments. So I was able to observe some of that, you know, and then in high school for the first year or two, I felt, you know, a bit of a bullying, bit of a discrimination. Partially it was because of racism, and partially it was because of an adolescent behavior. Because even within race, some of those things happen. And then partially it was because I was a newcomer, and ability to integrate and speak the language fluently was not there. Um, but again, I from caste based system, I don't think I sensed any discrimination. Everyone was open. Uh, didn't even think about it being a caste factor. And then even at school, there was a strong Christian presence there. A couple of teachers, who became very good friends with me. They were very encouraging and supporting, and they helped me, grow and learn. They would spend even extra time. So 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 I ended up graduating from high school there. Went to about 100 miles away from Fort St. James, Prince George. Went to college there. Did my first 2 years. Then moved to Lower Mainland. Went to Simon Fraser University and got my first degree from there. Then I uh, uh, ended up getting a job in a social service sector with the government of British Columbia. Was hired as a social program officer or social worker, you know, and then got my second degree in social work, and stayed working for the government. Worked in various programs, you know, and now I'm working in a role of regional director of operations. So it's been a great experience, wonderful experience overall. Couple of things in terms of raising consciousness that probably brought me more closer to understanding Baba Sahib Dr. Ambedkar, who he was. Uh, First was when I was doing my bachelor's degree in Simon Fraser University for one of my courses, in sociology. Uh, was doing some research, and then for the topic, I thought, yeah, curious. I've heard about Dr. Ambedkar, who's quite a scholar, and I thought, I wonder, whether or not there are any books on him or by him that might touch on that particular subject, you know. And at that time, I was not able to find any books or even reference to Dr. Ambedkar. Mind you, it wasn't digital, a collection, so it's possible I may have missed something, you know. But it was surprising, that I wasn't able to see anything in comparison to other great sons or daughters of India, like Gandhi and Nehru. There are a lot of books on them, you know, and so I was merely surprised by that. And then after I graduated, I came to know that the government of Maharashtra had actually compiled books on Dr. Ambedkar, uh, and I had heard that those books were becoming available, you know. So I thought this was a great opportunity, right? And because there was a collection, and so I approached Simon Fraser University library and a couple of other contacts, particularly in the Institute for the Humanities, you know, and then they showed a positive interest. Then instead of us or our community organization ordering the books and presenting them to the university, a strategy came to my mind, which was to develop a partnership with the Indian consulate. You know, so my view was Dr. Ambedkar is one of the greatest sons of India, right? And it's more appropriate to have the government represented or participate in this process. And again, you hear about things about how Indian bureaucracy is slow, they're non-responsive, you know. But to my surprise, when I approached them, the response was positive. I wasn't surprised by that because that's what you would expect. But what I was more surprised by was after about 2 weeks, I received a call and I was advised that books are there, that they order the books and books have already arrived, you know. And I was thinking, this doesn't make sense, because you have these images that Indian bureaucracy particularly is not responsive, and but that was really positive experience, and there was a turning point in terms of how I look at the outside world as well. So we did that, and we were able to reach out then not only Simon Fraser University, but University of British Columbia and University of Victoria. And then this was probably in 94, 95, I can't remember exactly, that we made the presentations and the books were presented. So since then, we've been having a great partnership with the Consulate General's office in Vancouver and the University of British Columbia and Simon Fraser University. And we've been, the partnership is growing. It has come to a point where we have annual Dr. Ambedkar Memorial lectures, and we were pleased, Suraj, that you were able to come and join us. Ms. Santosh Das from UK, she had also come as an activist and shared, and there were others. Vivek Ambedkar from GNU. So what I'm saying is that helped us to start not only developing a partnership, but to be mindful that if you want to create a sustainable change, we need to be able to positively influence institutions. Because if we're unable to influence institutions, we will not be able to influence political leaders either, right? And that's a different approach that I picked up than others may, as most people would start off by influencing political leaders, right? And then go to the institutions. And the approach that we picked up is that yes, political leaders, they're great, they have a role, and they can make a big difference, quickly, because they'll be decision makers, right? But the reality is that many of the political leaders, their shelf life is not as long as is for the institutions. So it's critical to have partnerships with the universities. So Dr. Ann Murphy, who's one of the principals for this project, she's been a great ally. Dr. Smear Gandesha from SFU, he has also been a great ally among the universities in the local area, and that now has come to a point other universities, not only in the local area, but also even from the states, are becoming interested. So I'm optimistic. The seed that was planted several years ago to develop a partnership with universities by presenting and by gifting the books of Dr. Ambedkar has now grown, and I'm hoping that by doing this, it will help not only for the patrons of Dr. Ambedkar to be educated, right, but also to many of the other decision makers, scholars and researchers, to have a better or enhanced understanding of who Dr. Ambedkar was, what his passion was, why he's advocated for what he did, what were some of the things he was really hoping for, in terms of electoral reforms, and then why he ended up sacrificing, or compromising some of his uh, his ideals. But I think he also gave us a message. He says, "I brought this caravan this far. If you can't take it forward, at least don't let it go back." So he was practical. He did what he could, but he also said, "This is not what I wanted. Right? We need to keep this caravan moving forward." So when I think of this, and I get inspired, right? I know the journey is not going to be completed in the next couple of years or so. Like I said, my great grandparents have been fighting for this, right? And they migrated from that village to another village, to Jalandhar, then to Canada, and they've been doing whatever they can to make a better a world. So this journey is going to continue, right? And it's going to be a long journey, right? But we have to remain optimistic. We have to remain positive. We need to also learn to remain focused. It's clear, right, that we don't have no one has any single identity, and we have a multiple identities, right? I was born in a Ravdasya community, so that's one, element of my identity. Right? I came from India, and I live in Canada. So Indo-Canadian is one is the other identity. I'm inspired by Dr. Ambedkar, right? So I'm so I have elements of that identity. Whether I'm called Ambedkarite or not, it's debatable, because even what is Ambedkarite, what is Ambedkarism is questionable. So I think what where I'm landing is that having a single identity or a label is really not practical. You know. So my identity is that I'm a lifelong learner, and I don't have the answers for everything, and even the answers that I have are from my vantage point of view. Someone else may have different vantage point of view. So that's one. In terms of the caste system, I also don't believe that caste system uh, 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 is something which has put everyone in a state of disadvantage. It's true, when the caste system was created, it created oppression, right? It did not provide any venues, right? But the teachings of Lord Buddha, right? Guru Kabir, Guru Ravidas, Dr. Ambedkar, and many of the other social reformers, they have taught us that how the oppression can also be used as a tool, right? To to uh, 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 to be educated, right? And then feel agitated and organized. So I'm feeling that that uh, that uh, because particularly among so-called Dalit communities, and I know that at least in Punjab, and I would probably say in Maharashtra and other areas, the Ravdasya community has is probably one of more organized communities, and one is because of the numbers, right? And secondly, they were also able to get the education that was needed. They were also able to develop temples as community centers, and which solidifies their identity and gives them the opportunities to organize, agitate. So the reason I'm saying that is even in Canada, for example, you have Guru Ramdasi temples in Vancouver, in Calgary, Montreal, Toronto, and when you look at other communities of the so-called Dalit communities, I know there's one Valmiki temple in Ontario, and I know there are one or two Kabir centers or organizations. But what I'm saying and I've heard the number of Valmikis and Kabir Panthis living in Canada are probably more so than Ravidasis, and but because they have not been able to organize, their strength is not noticeable. It's not noticed. Whereas Ravidasis and the numbers are high, but I'm saying relatively speaking, they're still pure. But because they're able to be organized, they are able to establish their milestones, and create the landscape, which gives that visible identity, right? Is helping to be organized. So in summary, identity, I would say I have a multiple identities, and then and these all identities, while they can be negative, right, but they can also give you the inertia and can help you to be the catalyst that is needed for
Mhm.
the change.